Hi, everybody. So right now we're going to go ahead and take a look at our next drawing, which is going to be for learning to see objects. It's going to be our piece of cake, and literally we'll make it a piece of cake for you. Oh, sorry, I said that. I didn't mean to, but just get out. Anyway, so when we're looking at a piece of cake here, we're almost looking at something that is in a two-point perspective. Now, what do we mean by that? When we're looking at two-point perspective, that means that we have an object that has a clear corner that is closest to the viewer, and that's right here. And if we think about it, from the top and bottom of that corner, these two sides would go off to the distance in one way, and these two would go off to the distance in another way, basically doing 2 points of reference that come together to form the corner of this object. So we're going to start that out as sort of the basic foundation for our piece, and we're going to use that and be inspired by that. So I was going to start off by drawing this corner of the object first. So again, sort of setting that scale of that object. So that's sort of the corner of my cake right there. Now what I want to do is I want to take it back like it's going in a distance. So this line here on the cake and here are parallel to one another. So I'm going back and going back, almost like they're going back into the distance, right? And then I go straight down. Yeah, so going back, and this goes straight down. Now over to the left side here, you'll notice that this space here is about 3 times that width. So I'm going to go back in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark that. I'm just going to go ahead and make myself a mark there saying, okay, that's where I'm going to put the end of that cake. I could actually go a little bit further. Go just a little bit further with that. And the idea being that I just want to mark and say, okay, this is how far I want to go. So I know that this line is going to go upwards because this goes higher than the cake. So I'm going to go up a little bit higher. And the distance from here to here, I want to mimic from here to there, right? Now, as high as this is where this is going to start. So I can basically kind of go like this and go, oh, okay, well, that's about the same distance there. So I want to do that there. It looks like I'm right about where I need to be. So right now I'm going to go ahead and put this line in, and I'm going to put this line in. There we go. I'm looking pretty good there. But now I need to put in the back side of the cake. And here I just need to run this back over to this side. So let's go ahead, run that back into there. There we go. And I'll erase that a little bit there. So we have a bit of our basically a shape of our cake. Now, as I look at the back here, it looks like maybe this could be thinned up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and just take that in a little bit. And I'll erase that and adjust that line. The nice thing about this is, as we're doing this here, is that, we're working with a pencil. We can go ahead and erase, we can adjust. And for a lot of you out there, I've heard someone made one time in class made a comment, said, I'm not a drawer, a drawer. And you know what? Basically, just someone who draws is just someone. Basically, the idea is just taking a risk. And you know what? It's a pencil. It's got an eraser. Go for it. You can go ahead, take that risk, and I'll always say, go for it. Right? All right. So there we go. Have our piece of cake. And with that shape right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead now and think about, all right, how do I want to work this? I have the spacing here inside of the cake itself. So I've got the thickness of the icing. And I've got the icing inside the cake, right? And I've got this area here. So I need to draw that in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line that's fairly parallel right there. And just take that right along there. And then I'll go about the same distance when I get to the back side of the cake. You should notice that thickness here is about the same. And I'm going to take that straight down. There we go. Now I have thickness here and a bit of icing here. So they're about a third of the way. So this is about a third, and a bottom third. So I'm going to divide it in thirds. So roughly, I'll go ahead and take that line there. So there's 1, and there's 2. So let's go ahead. Now I have to put that other line in that runs parallel to that. A little bit of that icing line. And there's another one down below with that icing line. Now I have a little line right here I need to erase right there. So as to connect that frosting together. So for clarity, I will go ahead and pull that out and go ahead and reestablish this section here. There we go. Now, as far as we go look at next is the icing. Now the icing, this is sort of like these sort of organic sort of swirls and diagonals here coming across here. So I'm going to kind of go like this. It's 1, 2. And remember now, when you're doing this, you're trying to just mimic something, capture the essence of it. You're not trying to get it exact in that way. We're trying to get something that alludes to it, but maybe not exact. So I think we're pretty good right there. The next thing we need to do with this is we need to go ahead and put in. I know, I think that's about it actually. Now I think we're pretty good here. I'm just going to clean up this line here a little bit. I feel like this one needs to be a little bit more of a diagonal feel to it. There we go. So now with this one, now I'm ready to go back in and go and do the flowers on there, the little flowers. Now the flowers, if you think about the flowers, they're not drawn as circles like this. They're ovals like this. You see, they're ovals. See, and so because of the oval here, we're looking at it from a side view. So we'll put in that little circle there. We'll put in the little little dollop on top, and these little parts here of the petals are like little fingers that pop out. So we're going to use just this oval as a guide. So we're going to go ahead and put a finger here, and we put a finger there, and one over there, and here. Notice I sort of keep those almost like a little dial right inside that shape. And look how easy that comes out. So let's go ahead here, and I'm going to put one over here. And then I'll put another one back over here. And within that, go ahead and draw in that little flower, that little dollop at the top there. And I'll go and put this one in. And then I'll go and draw those little fingers. So there's sort of one coming out. There's 2 and 3. There we go. And then our next one coming out toward the viewer. This way. The left side, we see them there. Several little flowers. So we basically have our cake shape ready to go. So now I'm ready to go ahead and use my pen and go ahead and use my flexible nib pen. And I'm going to go ahead and do some inking on here. Now, again, you'll notice that on the top or the outside of the cake here, I have these waves like little shadows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do that outline here first. I'm going to do it really light. I'm going to do a little bump there wherever I see that little bit of that wave is going to go. All right, and I'll stop here. And then I'm back here, I go back in, it's got a little heavier line right there. Kind of a heavier line, just sort of waves that right there, okay? Next, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna do my little flowers here. And so I'm just gonna kind of go in and out, right? So I'm just kind of giving a little bit of curve there to these little tiny little flowers. Look at that, just a little bit there. Let's go to the next one here. Flower there. Yeah, and just a little bump, and then we can finish off that cake right there. All right, so we're doing pretty good here. So we have the edge, sort of the edge of the cake here, a little bit of an icing, lightly there, and we'll come over to the edge here. We have this little tip up, and then we get to the edge of the cake here. We sort of come down rather smooth, and we kind of have a little bit of a jagged line there, a little bit, because we've got some of that frosting that's in there. Kind of mixing up with that cake, a little jagged line here. Notice it's not patterned, it's just a really kind of loose and random little line. And I'm just kind of going here. That's where that fluffiness of the cake is meeting the inside of those layers of frosting there in between the cake layers. So I'm going to bring them down here, just little tiny, and that's a nice thing. But again, this little nib here, it's very, very tiny. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one right against the bottom there. So we don't have any icing there on the bottom, do we? Just have that little bit there. All right, so now we get back to our icing on this side, which is going to be a little rougher, right? So, but again, I'm going to go ahead and do a little rise when I get to those little bits of the icing there. And down the bottom here, I'm going to put a little heavier line, give it that weight, right? And on the back side here, let's go a little bit more. We're going to go here, a little bump, and they're going to push that cake out. So now we have these little ribbons that coming down below. And you notice a little darker on the upper side of them. So we put a little here, there, and you notice I'm kind of back and forth there. There we go. And we're almost there. And then what we need to do now is get a little bit of that sort of little tight little bit of like sponge-like quality to the outside here of the cake. So, like so, and like so. And then to smooth out that cake right there, just kind of a slightly smoother line on the edge. Now, the fun part here, I love this inside here. Actually, let me finish this top part here. Kind of a lighter line. Make sure to connect that right to there. And for the inside of the cake, I'm going to go ahead and go with just this really sporadic, little like very soft, wiggly little lines that just allude to the openness of like little bubbles there inside the cake. And I'll just kind of go a little bit like that. And I'm trying to avoid making any kind of a little pattern shape there. Just giving enough texture to sort of allude to something without going crazy on it. back and forth here, little lines here. Sometimes I go toward the edge, but never heavy. I'm not pushing hard at all with that. And when I do this, I'm looking to do kind of an even out the textures so they kind of move around the space here a little bit. And so that there you go. And there we are. So I don't want to make it too dense, because if I make those marks too dense, it'll look too heavy. But there we are. Now I can go ahead and add just a little bit darker, I think, on the bottom of the cake here. So maybe a little bit heavier in some of those areas there. Just kind of push a little bit, do some up. There we go. Kind of give it equal weight there a little bit. But there we have it. So there is our piece of cake. So you notice I've used a little bit of their very line texture, just one little piece here. And I think I can do is one more little bit of icing piece right here that cuts right through that flower. So let me go ahead and do that. Stop, I'll pick that up. Put that right in there, kind of like that. Let's do one smaller one right about there. All right, there we go. So we have a piece of cake. And so good luck there, folks, on yours. I hope you enjoyed looking at this one. Let's go ahead and we'll go on and we'll see you in the next video.